wonder where you were going. Mulholland Drive.
My name is Anna Catley, and this video essay will be exploring David Lynch's 2001 film Mulholland Drive. I'd like to take a stab at analyzing, not the film itself really, but how the viewer should watch the film, as a sort of war between reality and nightmares. That concept of dreams versus reality spans the entire film, so to stay focused, I'm going to use the famous Winkie's diner scene as the sort of metaphorical blue key to unlocking the mystery of Mulholland Drive.
Playback and action.
Oh, baby, I know every little star.
I had a dream about this place.
Oh boy.
You see what I mean?
Okay. So you had a dream about this place. Tell me.
The first Winkie's diner scene takes place between the characters Dan and Herb, who are definitely acquaintances, though the extent of their relationship isn't revealed in whole. Dan and Herb sit across from each other in a booth, a full breakfast in front of them untouched, while primarily Dan speaks. Out of the two characters, it is Dan who's made out to be the subservient to Herb's dominant, with Dan expressing his thoughts freely, albeit nervously, as Herb interjects with condescending remarks.
I had a dream about this place.
Oh boy.
The first layer of this scene being a clue to the rest of the film is in the camera work. While the majority of the scene consists of this back and forth dialogue with over-the-shoulder shots, the fidelity to traditional conversational filming ends there. The camera doesn't remain static, but rather seems to float in a languid state. While in one interaction, the viewer might assume that because the shot of Dan is higher up, and it could mean a position of power, the same shot a few moments later will have reversed for no apparent reason. These camera movements, floating in a dreamy state and constantly shifting the dynamic between the two characters, reinforces the idea that what is happening in the scene might not be a reality. Adding to the layer of indicators that this is a scene from the subconscious is Dan's discourse paired with strategic editing. Throughout the conversation, Dan is relaying to Herb a recurring dream he has that takes place at that specific Winkie's diner.
They start out that I'm in here, but it's not day or night. It's kind of half night, you know? But it looks just like this, except for the light. And I'm scared like I can't tell you. Of all people, you're standing right over there. By that counter.
He goes on to say that the reason for their fright is the man who's in the back of Winkie's.
He's the one who's doing it. I can see him through the wall. I can see his face. I hope that I never see that face ever outside of a dream.
The scene ends with Herb and Dan going to the back of Winkie's to investigate, where they find this guy. He's presumably the face that terrified Dan so much in his dreams, since Dan faints upon seeing him. While having Dan explain his dream is natural, the dreamscape side of the scene catches up with the supposed normality by having Dan's nightmare become a reality. Another shot which reinforces the idea that this scene is not a reality, but a nightmare, is when Herb is standing next to the counter, exactly where Dan had described him in his dream. The movement of Dan looking over his shoulder at the counter mimics the exact manner in which he first explained his dream. This simple cut from Dan's face seeing Herb standing at the counter reinforces that this is an otherworldly occurrence, having been originally constructed in a nightmare. Having this scene occur so early on in the film is crucial to how the audience will interpret the rest of the film. The purpose appears to be to set the viewer on edge, to present them with falsities, so as to suggest that the rest of the film cannot be trusted either, that the other supposed realities can be broken as easily as this one. This concept is confirmed in later scenes taking place at the same diner between Betty and Rita, belonging to the fantasy or dream world, and Diane and Camilla, who are members of the real world. The gist of this is that the audience can assume that the scene is making distinctions between what can be perceived as reality and what can be perceived as a dream. The factors I mentioned here help realize the film as a lesson in awakening to our own realities at the risk of becoming too absorbed in a fantasy.